It broke. All right, guys, strap in. This is gonna be a wild one. Quick disclaimer, nothing in this video is intended to make anybody look bad, make anyone's car look bad, make anyone feel bad, hurt anybody's feelings, any of that good stuff. But
y'all know me for being raw, so I gotta keep it raw.
this is more so just to try to help some of you guys like not make some of these same mistakes. And then for some of you guys that are maybe hesitant on purchasing a Terminator X because you hear of some of the horror stories associated with that, this is why. These type of things kind of basically come with the price point associated with the Terminator X. You won't see an install like this with a Dominator ECU or even like a Fuel Tech FT550 or 600, but you throw a $1,000 price tag on it and this is kind of what you get. Disclaimer number 2, I've turned this car away more times than I can count. It's shown up, I've kind of gone through the list to fix this, that, the other, and it just keeps coming back. So it's at the point where I either just need to say flat out say no, and that always makes me feel bad and I get guilt tripped into doing it anyways, or we can just try it as is, and if there's any problems we can try and work through them the best we can, but if it gets too carried away then I'm just gonna have to call it quits. So my understanding of this thing is that it's been to multiple shops so far, and this is about where he's gotten with it. I've been dealing with the last shop that it was at. They're the ones that brought it here. I haven't had a whole lot of interaction with the customer himself. Understandably so. I know he's been real frustrated with everything up to this point. Now it's in my lap, so we'll see if we can't make a little bit of progress with it. As far as the engine goes, what cam is in it, what fuel injectors are in it. If it's built or not, I don't know. I was told something about ring gap, but maybe it is, maybe it's not, so who knows there. It does have a turbo 400 trans in it, and something's up with the starter. Every time you try and start it, it sounds like everything's gonna explode and kill everybody. It is running a wet nitrous kit, and the nitrous side of it is it may or may not have a 200 shot in there, so again, who knows. Was told everything's wired up, but the inputs and outputs are actually over there with tape on them, not connected to anything, so I'm gonna have to do that. And the rest of the wiring is suspect at best, so I don't have the highest hopes in the world. Let's get started, I guess. Another disclaimer, I told both the shop owner and the owner of the car that I fully expect this thing to explode, so they were okay with it. It is freezing cold outside, so I'm gonna try and get as much of this done as I can, just kind of here on the bench, and any kind of like install stuff that I need to do before I open the door and let all the heat out. I brought some new jets that are from 2000, so they're 21, 22, whatever year it is, years old. I gotta throw those in there, and then I'm gonna adjust the throttle body and work up all the idle stuff and make sure to run like a normal car before I bother putting it on the dyno. I'm gonna do all that and I'll be back in a little bit. All right, I've been chasing wiring around and configuring crap in the ECU, and so far the input works, but it looks like the output is wired backwards. Well, by backwards I mean it's set up to run a 12 volt trigger, but we only have ground triggers available. In which case that means the relay is going to be wired backwards and it's not going to be a quick and easy fix. So I'm trying to find a workaround for that right now. Holy shit. It actually works, that's weird. Alright, you can't pay me enough to try and figure out what the hell's going on here. So if that is wired the wrong polarity, we might just have to add an additional relay or something. I'm not fooling with that. You don't have a power probe, it's one of the best tools on earth. So the good news is the solenoid is turning on, which means the relay is actually wired correctly. The bad news is that we don't have a 12 volt trigger available, so I'm not digging into that wiring, so I think the easy thing to do here is going to be to throw another relay in place, and then they can fix it later, which I... Before to activate the solenoids, we'd have to trigger it with 12 volts, but now using this relay to switch polarity, and I don't know if you can get it, but it's working with the ground trigger now. I didn't get fancy with my install here, but we'll mount this right here. I think with that, the nitrous wiring should all be about done. All right, now that we're wired up, we set our TPS trigger above 0 but pretty low, and then our minimum RPM to 0. What the hell just happened? Turn the ignition on. Send that. Now if we turn on our arming switch, and obviously make sure your bottle's off. So I'm kind of actually shocked that everything's working, but it appears it is all working. So now I'm going to screw with the idle throttle body bullshit, raise that up, and at that point I think we're about ready to actually kind of fire it up and start making some adjustments. Swapping around some jets. Definitely would have set this up as a progressive drag shot if it was my car, but I just kind of got to work with what I'm presented. As long as it makes some power, I guess it works. Threads on the fittings are all jacked up, so I have to keep an eye on it and see if it actually leaks fuel or not. Against any of my advice, they're going about the biggest nitrous jets ever. Was ready to get started, start working on the idle and stuff, but the battery's dead. It's kind of close to the end of the day, and I don't know, I don't really have it in me right now, so this might turn into a tomorrow project. All right, we got a whole new file in here. I adjusted the throttle stop, recalibrated the TPS sensor, and now we're gonna just try and do a cold start. We'll log it and see how it works out. It's gonna take me the entire day to remember that there's a button over here to start this thing. Idle's rock solid, I don't have to touch that. Probably not much of a surprise, but this has dropped connection with the ECU like 30 times already. Now it's just completely frozen everything. This type of stuff is totally wiring related, so you gotta really make sure that you take your time and do it right and do it nice. So now it gets like 99% of the way and it just stops. It's gonna be a long day if this is how this is gonna go. All right, this thing disconnects from the ECU about every 10 or 15 seconds, but got it running pretty good. With the acceleration enrichment, it had a big like dead spot off throttle, and kind of had to do some abnormal things with the acceleration enrichment, but it all worked. So basically brought the rate of change blanking up and then pulled some accel enrichment out of it. Usually it's the other way around. Like usually when there's a dead spot, it wants more accel enrichment, but adding acceleration enrichment just made it shit its pants even worse. I think what I'll do now is hold the dyno at like 2,000 RPM or so, and we'll just start driving around a little bit. All right, I usually don't use the learn feature. I find it to be faster just to do it manually, but since this thing disconnects so frequently, I'm actually going to fool with the learn a little bit. Basically cut the sensitivity of it in half. Let's try this. Like it's blown up already. I don't know what's going on with all the smoke. Yeah, if you look at this, you can see why I don't really like the learn feature so much. It's just got these massive holes in here. So if you try and smooth this out with either of these buttons, it's going to bring down right here just a little bit, and it's going to bring this back up, and it's going to wipe out everything that you just did. I'm not sure what I'm going to do here yet. I'm probably just going to do it all manually. All right, let's go see why the car's on fire. All right, so this thing's got some issues with the trans, but I just made a quick little run. Tip-in enrichment I pulled out of it. Past a certain point, I need to put some back in. But outside of that, I need to add a little bit of fuel. Converter kind of couples right around here. The runs are going to be pretty quick. All right, this is going to be one of those situations where we just have to make the best of what we got. Alright, so if we look here, the tip-in's a little better. Still need to add additional fuel there. Alright, this thing kind of sketches me out, so I'm actually going to try and do this in the least amount of runs as I can. I do need to play with a little bit of target air fuel stuff and a little bit of timing. And you have to change those things one at a time. So I'm going to just try and lean it out a little bit on this run, see what happens. Everywhere I made changes is within 1%. I'm gonna have to add a little fuel, somewhere between 4,000 and 5,000 RPM, see if it made any more power. I think he grudge races this thing, so we're not going to show any power numbers. I picked up like 11 horsepower, so we're gonna stick with that air fuel. This is about where I thought I was gonna end up. I tend to start a little fat and retarded on timing to start and then work it up. It's a lot easier to work it up than shoot the motor through the fender and then wish you'd started a little more conservative. All right, so let me change the fueling a little bit down low, and then let's see, where do I have timing at? I'll probably throw 2 degrees in it and see what happens then. I'm actually gonna call that good. We throw another degree in it, it might pick up 3 or 4, but there's kind of too much stuff going on to really worry about that. All right, everything's good on the motor. I actually made like a little quick run with everything nitrous related turned on, but mechanically everything turned off just to make sure that it's going to trigger the output and pull the timing and all of that good stuff. I guess it kind of goes without saying this. I don't 100% just want to trust that everything's correct on this. I'm trying to turn the bottle and stuff on now, but now the next problem we're going to run into is we have no type of bottle heater, no type of bath, no type of anything, and I don't have the bottle mounted, so I can't just use a torch or something because I'm going to light the whole car on fire. And all the Teflon we got going on here just sketches me out. It's not so much that I don't like nitrous. Actually grown on me quite a bit, but the reason I don't like nitrous is this is generally how a lot of the nitrous stuff is kind of set up and installed and all that. It's kind of like turbo stuff 10 years ago. All the turbo stuff used to have a really bad reputation, but then when you saw like the installs and stuff, it's like, well, this isn't the turbo's fault. Now everybody has a turbo, so maybe nitrous will come around too one of these days. It's just crazy. I don't really know what else to say other than that. Probably bad to say, but I kind of really don't want to do this. It just has bad news written all over it. Hopefully the solenoids will work for at least 1 or 2 runs before they go bad and get clogged up from all that Teflon stuff. Again, none of this stuff is an attempt at me like making anybody look bad. It's just, this is what comes along with a dyno sometimes, and hopefully if one person learns something from this as far as like what not to do, then you know, that's kind of the goal and the objective of it. I don't necessarily know how to show what's wrong and not make it seem like I'm like bashing people's stuff, because that's not the intention, but this saves everybody a lot of time and money and frustration, so it is what it is, I guess. All right, I just talked to the guy that did, I don't know, the most recent work on the car, and asked him about the trans, and like basically just, yeah, it does that sometimes. So I don't even understand why this is here. Basically didn't see anything wrong with any of it, and I just can't bring myself to do this. So I'm gonna call the customer directly, even though it was kind of one of those, here, if you have any questions, talk to this guy type of deals. I'm gonna see what he wants to do, and if he's okay with this, then I guess it is what it is, but this does not give me the warm and fuzzies. Hey, what's up, man? This is Joe at Tempest Racing, where your car's at. Hey, I just got a couple questions for you on this thing. Long story short, I don't really know how to sugarcoat this, so I'm just gonna come out and say it, man. This thing is really, really rough around the edges. The installation on a lot of this stuff is questionable at best. The way the nitrous stuff is set up and everything's caked up in Teflon paste and everything. Again, I don't know how to sugarcoat it. I'm horrified that this thing's just gonna explode. You get a solenoid stuck open or hangs open or something like that, and the trans doesn't shift. I have no idea, man. You got a lot of work ahead of you on this thing. But basically my main question is do you want me to spray this thing? Because there's a much higher probability that it's gonna explode than that it's gonna stay together. It scares me to death, but it's your car, so just let me know what you want to do. Well, build for nitrous doesn't mean anything if you get a nitrous solenoid that hangs open. We'll try it out, and you know, just so there's no confusion, if it blows up or something like that, then I don't want to have to say I told you so, but it's on you at that point. Kind of blown away on this deal. I don't even really know how to feel anymore. I guess somebody wants you to do something, you're supposed to do it. What the hell are these? I have to change out plugs too. Surprised that works. Solenoid's grounded to a plastic intake manifold. Yeah, the plugs that are in are no good, so I'm gonna throw some colder plugs in it real quick. So here's my dilemma. Imagine if you called a shop or called somebody and you wanted them to tune your car, and then you showed up and then they told you that your car is too much of a, insert whatever you want to call a situational car like that. And then like imagine how bad that would make you feel. But then on the flip side, imagine if you were a shop and you had something come through that you knew was gonna have a whole bunch of problems that one, you kind of didn't want to deal with, and two, I don't know, we get a lot of really nice stuff that comes through here, and it's just kind of bad. And then on the other hand of it, there's a lot of people just maybe don't necessarily know or understand maybe what's right and what's wrong. And then when you tell them, they don't listen, and you try and give them a list of things to take care of, and then it comes back and it's all exactly the same. And I've been doing this a long time, and this situation comes up all the time. And what ends up happening is the car comes back 15 times if you don't just kind of power through it and make it work. So like, it's really tough to kind of find that balance. And I don't know, I try and keep everybody happy, make everybody happy, and sometimes doing so I make myself unhappy, but it's all part of the job, I guess. If I'm being completely honest with this car, I was kind of trying my hardest to look past some of the the wiring and some of the stuff that maybe isn't very aesthetically pleasing. And there was a decent amount of stuff I wanted to actually tinker with and play with on the nitrous side of it. I'm not gonna get to do that on this one. It's just a little bit too sketchy for me. Maybe the next nitrous deal that comes through will be a little bit more ready to go, and we can tinker and play with some stuff a little bit more in depth on that one. I hope I live through this. All right, let's see what happens. This thing scares me to death. It broke. Definitely an I told you so moment. Fuel and timing, everything's spot on. It actually felt like the trans broke or the drive shaft broke, not that the engine broke. Let's see what we can figure out. Definitely something in the drivetrain. In a weird way, I think this is like best case scenario though. It's gonna be far quicker, cheaper, easier to fix that stuff than it is that the engine that's gonna break. Surprisingly, everything in the log was really good. I'll probably yank a couple plugs out real quick, but I think they could fix the drivetrain stuff and probably just take it to the racetrack. Now with that being said, I can't stress this enough, like go to the racetrack after fixing and taking care of everything. There's a lot of stuff on this that this is extreme safety hazard. Alright, so if you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate it. And again, hopefully you kind of understand my reasoning on going forward with this. I'd actually love to hear what you guys think. If you were a shop owner or tuner or whatever you want to call it, and you had something like this come in, it's really easy just to say like, turn it away, don't do it. But having done that plenty of times in the past, in a small community like this, like then you get the reputation of just being a dick and an asshole, or you do it and it's, potentially a situation. And then also the other side of it, like if you were a customer and this was the state of your car and you went to a shop and they just turned you away, like how would you feel and how would you like to see them handle that? Like what would you feel would be the correct way for them to do it? I think for a lot of people, like this is pretty straightforward, and a lot of people are willing to just take people's advice. When you say you need to fix this, that, the other, then they do it. But situation like this, you tell them that and it doesn't happen. Like how many times can you sort of do that? I think I'm gonna change a lot about how I go about dealing with this stuff from here on out. I don't know if you're bored, comment, let me know what you think. I guess that's gonna do it for this one, and I'll see you next time.